I am very sorry for being late, but otherwise, blame National Rail. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to round 2 of Season 6 with SSRL's first division, the Pacey division indeed. I am your commentator, G-Dave11, aka David, or even Wingus. Let me just make sure we do actually have some sort of feed going on. We do now. I do apologise for the delay in getting started today. At the moment, we are currently looking at a qualifying, well, not quite dominated by Robastian and DeAndre. Still looking very quick indeed. And of course, last week's winner, Danger David, is down in 13th. Currently in the pits in the Racing Bulls with his teammate only just over 100 ahead of him. Ven is in the chat saying, let's go Herman. And of course, Herman will be hoping for better. But of course, I also noticed fellow Sun is already retired from the session as we have a lag spike there from the Alpine of Ryan Brooks, who is currently 6th place there. Of course, Ryan Brooks hoping to go ahead on a title challenge. Of course, races in PFRL on Friday nights in the 100% division as well. Of course, that league having its own. We have a missing front wing on a Red Bull. Who is that? That is Vero Ducko missing. In fact, not just his entire front wing. Is it? What? His nose is invisible. What? I've never seen that in my entire life. I thought that Red Bull car is damaged, but it apparently isn't and is still going. Some of the textures haven't loaded in at all. Vero Ducko with a unique looking formula. In fact, where's Andy's front? Where's the entire front of the car on Andy? It is completely missing, so we have a glitch in the lobby. Energetic up to 5th, by the way. He was 12th not too many moments ago, so that's a 126.729 as I have a hello from a friend of mine as well. Hello to you. You are currently watching the last few minutes. Please do ignore the fact that the cars do not have their entire front wing. That is apparently a glitch with the video game. So at the moment now, we are observing Race Chase with a minute and a half to go in qualifying. This will be his last flying lap, considering the ERS deployment will be entirely used up at the end of this lap. What can the McLaren do? That's 4th place, just ahead of his teammate Babish, who managed 2nd place last week, if I am remembering that correctly. But currently on his outlap, we also have Andrew in 3rd there. Of course, Andy and Andrew making it a Romanian 1-2 last week, and Robastian on his outlap currently on pole, of course, taking 3rd place last week as well, but I'm hoping for a little better. Quincy this week goes from the McLaren to the Red Bull. Of course, the admin of the league, a reserve driver in Division 1, and we'll see what he can do. He finished ahead of and DeAndre, of course. Those two haven't really been on similar pace throughout the entire previous 5 seasons, but this season and a new game and a new handling model seems to have brought Quincy into the thick of things. Observing Andrew again, of course, qualified top 2 last week. Can he repeat it now? He has got Stowe and then the club section to go as Guy Rapka has retired from the session from 15th place in the Haas. Only 15th though, so he might be overtaken by Vero Ducko, who is just behind this group of cars. Andrew to the line. It's 2nd place. Not going to be good enough. Vero Ducko, though, going to him 1.3 seconds down. Quincy up to 6th as qualifying concludes. And I don't think Quincy has another lap. So for the session, it's Ryan Brooks, Herman, and Verstappen that have completed. They cannot move further forward. It's all down from here. Flip completes the time. He's 14th. What about last week's winner, Danger David? At the moment, 2/10 up in Sector 1, nearly 3/10 up even. And now, coming across the old start, finish straight, going for the fast right-hander to Cops. By the way, update on Andrew, of course, nearly within a tenth, but Robastian just behind last week's winner, Danger David. And now, going back to David, through Maggots, through Beckett's, then approaching Chapel Curve there, usually down to 5th gear there. Now you go up through the gears again. It's only just over 0.2 of a second. This would only be good enough for the top 10. He's got a slipstream from his teammate there. That will be appreciated. Energetic there, up in 8th as of right now. Quincy's also on a lap. I think he's coming through where David's just gone through Maggots and Beckett's. Of course, remember, 2 minutes to complete your lap once the session has concluded. Through Club Corner, David goes 5th place. So there we go. That's Sector 3. Saved him control. Only a few moments behind, up to 6th. But what about Robastian? Nearly 1.5 tenths up. This could be a 125. It is a 125 from the Williams. That is not being beaten. I can guarantee you that. Quincy decides not to complete his lap time. He is straight into the pits. He's going to save his tyres for the 50% race, which will be 26 laps once the intermission from qualifying to the race has been completed. But there you go. Robastian and Andrew lock out the top 2. It is a Williams 1-2. And the title, well, the current Constructors leaders being the Racing Bulls, were contending with Williams going into this evening. And Williams have the first step for round 2. What an effort by Robastian and Andrew equally. Andy Andre as well will be a little bit intimidated, of course. The 4-time world champion going into this 4 times in a row, looking to try and make it 5, but it's having a bit of a challenge. So, your official qualifying results from that 18-minute session, which we unfortunately missed most of, thanks to Network Whale. But it's Robastian and Andrew and Andy. Well, look at that. It is a Romanian top 3 lockout there. Impressive stuff by those 3. Then it's Race Chase and Dage David rounding out your top 5. Don't count David out of this just yet. Then from 6th to 10th is Control, Nasiri, Bavish, Quincy, and Energetic. Then from 11th to 15th is Ryan Brooks, Herman the German. 13th is Verstappen, Mr. Welter, Flip Namsram. Then from 16th to last is Guy, Fellow Son, Tarkangino, Quan, and Vero Doco. And while we are in this intermission, we may as well just go through a couple of things with you right now. Thankfully, we did at least see the last few minutes and saw a few flying laps. Looks like it's going to be a dry race, but there looks to be a hint of clouds behind. So could we be seeing wet weather conditions later on? Something the drivers will be keen to look out for and will have access to on their other radars in the garage. So maybe a couple of things coming later on. So let's go through a couple of things first, because as we mentioned before, unfortunately we were late for the previous round as well. So let's just go through your driver lineups very quickly. In the McLaren, it is Race Chase and Bavish. In the Ferrari Tifosi, it's Flip and Mr. Wouter. Then in the Red Bulls, it's Crank, Jorg, and Vero Ducko. Herman and Rush the Siri in the Mercedes. Fellow Son and Tarkangino in the Aston. Fellow Son off to a really poor start this season as well, considering he was championship contender or runner-up last season in F1 24. Very disappointing start for his season so far. Control and Kavachka in the Alpine. Haas has the 2 drivers of Kashka and F1 F of Fitech, something like that. If that is wrong, please do correct me. Then in the Racing Bulls, it is Energetic and Danger David. Danger David, of course, as we've said already, last week's winner. Robastian and Andrew in the Williams, they lock out the front row, with Andy Andre making it a triple Romanian lockout, and his teammate Enzo in the Kick Saubers. And then in the reserves, it's Rolly, Verstappen, Rendog, and Ryan Brooks. In the standings, we will go to your drivers' standings first. As we all know, Danger David making the win in the first round is, of course, on top, followed by Bavish, Robastian, Andy, and Andrew. That's your top 5 so far, and they have been mixed up a little bit. Bavish qualifying in 8th. Then, from 6th to 10th is Kashka, Mr. Router, Rush the Siri, Tarkangino, and Kavachka. Then, from 11th to 15th is Herman, Flip, Race Chase, Vero Ducko, and Energetic, with 16th to 20th. Being Fellow Son, Crank George, Control, Phytech, and Vincenzo. In the Constructors, as you know, Racing Bulls on top so far, but now with the Williams lockout for the front 2, they have got the upper hand in round 2 so far, with the McLaren flying in third. Then it's the Kick Sauber in fourth, with the Red Bull in fifth. Then from 6th to 10th, three teams on equal points there for 6th. There's Haas, Ferrari, and Mercedes, with Alpine and Aston Martin rounding out your 10 teams. And there we go. We actually managed to get through that before the nick of time. I would show off one last thing, but unfortunately, I think we are just going a bit tight on time. But it's just a little bit of background about Silverstone for you. Of course, this track was opened in 1948 after what apparently was just some random dude living nearby the airfield. Of course, this was a World War II airfield for the RAF. And he just lived nearby. He looked at it and thought, I want to go racing on it with a few of my friends. Calls them up, says, hey, let's go racing on this abandoned airfield. And then, well, 2 years later, the Formula One circus shows up. And from 1950 till even now, we've been showing up here for quite a long time. Of course, Sunday's race providing an absolutely entertaining spectacle, a mixture of dry and wet racing. And now we'll have the formation lap to bring to you. So, of course, we will bring some iconic music back, and we'll run through your grid one more time. And in case if you have just joined, first and foremost, warm welcome to you. It's good to have you along, and we will soon have the 26-lap race. Of course, we've had our 18-minute qualifying session to decide first through 20th, and now we'll have the 50% race to see who can finish and who can finish where. It is Robastian, of course, on pole position with his teammate Andrew behind. And then Andy, although he's not with the Williams, it is a Romanian top three lockout with Race Chase, the American driver, in 4th place. Then it's Danger David in 5th, with Control following along in 6th. Rush the Siri following along as well in 17th. Then your top 10 rounded up by Bavish, Quincy, and Energetic. Then from the top, outside the top 10, Ryan Brooks. Bit of a disappointing qualifying from his standards. He wants to try and go for the championship. He starts 11th with Herman the German, of course, a Season 1 world champion, has not been able to get that back since he has been the lesser part of Andy Andre's domination, but yet the one who is able to bring the pain hasn't quite found his mojo in F1 25. Let's see how his race pace does in this one. Verstappen behind in 13th, then Mr. Walter and Flip, both Ferraris qualifying 14th and 15th, and unhappy qualifying for the Tifosi. Guy Rapka in 16th, then the two Aston Martins 17th and 18th as well. They will not be happy with that. Then Kwan and Vero Ducco rounding out your 20 drivers for this evening. And of course, as you saw there, all but 2 drivers on the hards. It's only Guy and fellow Son that have ignored the field, so they want to go longer in their first stint. Now, in case if you are just watching F1 25 and you're just trying to understand how the game works for the first time, the tyre wear is very extreme on this one, as we're seeing disqualifications for the warm-up lap. Now, they will still line up on their grid slot, but the penalty is cold tyres. So they've just had the formation lap to get the tyres all warm, and then you face disqualification right on your grid slot, and all that heat just evaporates from your tyres. So now those 4 or 5 are at a disadvantage, as we now have the starting lights at any moment now. I think we have 5 red lights on our screen. We do not now, but it's 3, 4, 5 red lights. It's going Silverstone, and it's Robastian with an absolutely excellent start there. Andy was squirreling for traction, and he's under pressure from the McLaren behind. Position swapping as Control goes ahead of Danger David. In fact, they go side by side, coming into Village. There's the McLaren down the inside of Andy. Ryan Brooks with a 3-second penalty for corner cutting already. There's 3 and 4 wide in the background. Fellow Son and the Aston Martin of his teammate, in fact, losing positions as well. And Tarcagino trying to fight that back with the Haas there. He's forced wide off the track going through Aintree. Of course, this would be a DRS zone, but no DRS. Lap 1 to get the tyres up to temperature in a safe manner. And there's the Aston Martin again, trying to fight round the outside of the Haas in front. Ryan Brooks dropping positions off the start. Disappointing for him. And now Barish has even gained a position. And Herman up 3 positions as well. But the top 6 unmoved in this early part of the race, despite Race Chase having to go, whoa! 2 cars missing the track limits of Cops there. And we'll lose a lot of momentum as Veriduco takes advantage of that and gets past Quan there in the Haas. He's up to 19th, but now the leaders, well, let's have a look at them. Quincy up 3 positions as well, so good start for him. Biggest loser by far and away is Rush Nasiri. He's had a moment somewhere. He's missing his front left wing end plate, so he's missing downforce from that Mercedes. Is he going to call it in? Look at how much he loses in the dirty air. And there we go. Lap 1. Pit stop number 1 for the Mercedes driver. A disappointing start to his race. Can Rush Nasiri recover? Let's find out. DRS is now activated on this lap, and down the Hanger Straight, Wellington Straight even, you will see moves beginning now. The top 3 are very much running away with Race Chase just on the edge of that DRS window. You have to be within a second where it's at the detection zone, and here is the activation zone, and here we go. That rear wing opens for Race Chase. Should open for Danger David there in the background for 5th. It does, and with control following through as well. It's certainly been one heck of a chaotic start to the race at the back of the field, but at the front of the field, it has remained all line astern, and Rush Nasiri there, just to give you an idea how slow the pit lane is. He's only just come out of the pit lane exit, and he is 30 seconds behind. Both Aston Martins fighting each other as well, just on the exit of Woodcote. And now through Cops, that is Tarkin Gino up to 16th place. Of course, you've got to remember, fellow son starting on the hards, and the only other guy is actually the guy in the Haas. Of course, just in front of Tarkin Gino here. But Ryan Brooks getting a 3-second penalty right early on, and there you go. You can see the effects of the dirt. Yeah, that's too much grass, actually, from Tarkin Gino, but I was just going to say, talking about Ryan Brooks' awful start to the race, has now really got to play it cautious for the rest of that. That 3-second penalty is just enough to throw you off your mental game. It just kind of, like, it just really throws you off, as now Veriduco and Quan are doing battle again here for 18th place. It's not really for the position of the points. You've actually got to be in 15th in order to start scoring points. They can usefully work together. The pack hasn't ran away, and of course they got the Alpine of Ryan with a 3-second penalty. So if they could just work together a little bit, work within the DRS means, they could actually be on for some points here. So they've got to try and think about that. Of course, Rush Nasiri, and remember, 31 seconds back. What tyres did he go for? A fresh set of hards, so he needs to go long, but I imagine he will stop again. And of course, don't forget, we could have safety cars, and hang on a minute. We're now seeing a move from Tarkin Gino going into Brooklands and through Lovefield. He's got that move done, so now Tarkin Gino up to 15th place and is looking at the back, and Tarkin Gino actually off to an impressive start, up 3 positions on his starting position, and now he's looking like he is really on fire. Out the 2 Aston Martins, of course, fellow son is still getting his hard tyres up to temperature. It'll probably take another lap or so, and then they should be right within their window. So we'll see how fellow son does once it gets to the latter half of this stint. But expect a 2-stopper. Of course, last week we were in mixed conditions. The rain made it a wet race towards the beginning, but then as we got to lap 11, everyone switched off their intermediates onto their dry tyres, whether that was medium or hard. Just, whoa, goodness me. Fellow son squirreling out of stow, and he's all of a sudden got to run on a Haas. Haas getting it wrong there as they go side by side. What a little bit of contact between them, between Guy and fellow son there, and that loses time to Tarkin Gino in front. So Tarkin Gino got nothing to worry about behind, but now it's become a 4-car battle, and it's not even for points, and I think that's going to be a very frustrating realization for Tarkin Gino's teammate there, which we are currently observing. Oh, currently stuck in a Haas sandwich as well. Makes contact with the back tyre of Guy there, but now DRS for fellow son surely gets the move done. Let's go on board as he goes down the inside into Brooklands, but just doesn't quite have the straight line speed. But the mid corner grip there, oh, he forces the Haas off, making contact with him, and now round the outside, coming through Lovefield. Can fellow son hold it there as we go down the start, finish straight, or the old one anyway? No, but he's then going to have the open under on the exit, but the Haas just had better straight line speed in that regard, and thanks to that dirty air, fellow son going beyond the track limits there. He's just got to be careful, can't do that too much, or else he will get a 3-second penalty. And there we go, we do have a swap for the lead. Andrew is now ahead of Robastian, and I thought that was going to allow Andy Andre through there. Remember, 4 times in the champion in a row in the drivers as now. Well, we are actually seeing a move from Bavish there. Of course, third position last week and is 5 positions away from that. So a bit of work to do, but it's not unlikely. If the strategy and the pace are going your way, that should be enough positions to make up. And considering what pace Bavish has, he just needs to work on his track limits discipline, and he'll be right up there, I promise you that. That moment, still finding no way through Control, but now Control with no DRS. And we'll see how the McLaren goes on. Of course, battles up ahead. In fact, Danger David has a good run on the McLaren of Race Chase, and he gets that move done. In fact, the McLaren still had DRS, but there must have been a mistake out of Aintree, as now the other McLaren is making an overtake. Complete parallels there with the Papaya, and now a bit of contact with the Alpine, just saying, that position is mine. It's fair, but it's very, very square. As somebody saying, very good commentary. Thank you so much. Hope you're enjoying the racing so far. As now Danger David, of course, last week's winner, is now within DRS and can now start focusing on yet another potential win. Of course, did very well to qualify 4th and then get into 1st position. And on lap 5 out of 26, he is making he is doing what needs to be done. And with DRS down the hanger straight, he's not going to get close enough, but he's going to remain in touching distance, and I think that's what the McLaren of Race Chase will want as well. Remember, he lost DRS before Danger David got past, and I think he knew the Racing Bulls was the faster driver, as Flip is our 2nd driver to get a 3-second track limits penalty. Just to update you on what's going on at the back of the field, Fellow Sun is still behind Guy there, but within 0.3 of a second, we go through the club section of the track. Of course, the last corner officially named club, which leads you on to the Hamilton Straight. At the moment, the Aston Martin, it's still struggling. His teammate is now 2.3 seconds down the road, of course, with a point to his name. But if he can keep it within that 3-second window of Flip and Ryan Brooks, well, there's 2 more points on offer for him. But of course, he's 3 seconds away from that and outside of their window now, so maybe Tark and Gino not got the pace of the cars in front, but of course we still have pit stops to come your way. Can Fellow Sun make a move here? Made contact with the Haas a couple of laps ago, but not close enough to have a go through Lovefield. He'll get an exit. Well, he'll be hoping for a better exit than the Haas, but again, the Haas just seems to have straight line speed on that Aston, and that's why he's not really gaining through the DRS. So despite having the drag reduction, he's just not getting anywhere. And there you go again with the dirty air now implemented into this year's version of the game. He also struggles through the high downforce section. There you go, riding the sausage curve through Maggots into Beckett's, losing all sorts of momentum, just being behind the other car in front. But there's a battle going on up ahead for 8th place. There's Herman the German getting past an Alpine of Control, but the Alpine has remained there. Coming into the final section of corners, we are being treated to some excellent racing in these first 7 laps. And now Herman has got energetic down the inside through Club. They keep it clean. They give each other the respect they deserve. And Herman will keep facing forward, as will the Racing Bulls behind. But that's allowed for Stapper to get within this battle. And now there's also a battle for the lead occurring. It's all within 1 second of one another through to the top 6. And Bavish is also catching up there in 7th place. A lot of battles, and you don't know where to look. But Herman the German, remember, first season world champion, is still trying to find his mojo. He's been oh so close in the past, and he's made a look up through Brooklands. Nearly gave Energetic a look down the inside there, but keeps it together for now. And through the, now going through Lovefield and Woodcote, he's just got that comfortable gap, so maybe he was just looking for a slow entry and a fast exit, and he did that perfectly. But just not quite close enough to the Alpine for now, but he'll have another shot of DRS down the next straight, of course, the Wellington Straight, which is just coming right up after Maggots and Beckett's. But then Herman the German cuts it on a very common section and gets a 3-second track limits penalty, the 3rd driver to do so, and now has got to carry that until the end of the race. You cannot serve track limit penalties in a pit stop. It has to be served post-race. You cannot get rid of that, unfortunately. And of course it's just all a bit too common in this video game, but at least, you know, it's not like a track for example, the sail, it's very, very easy. And in fact, I saw one race where that all went wrong for a lot of people, as now fellow Son is starting to finally find his way past the Haas. Gets it around the outside, but a bit of contact between the Aston Martin and the Haas there. But fellow Son keeps pointing in the right direction, as does Guy. But that looked to me, that fellow Son had that done. Nowhere for Guy to really go. Gets the move done, and now he'll, well, fellow Son will get the dirty air again, because hello to your teammate. He's right in front of you, was 3 seconds down the road, but those mediums look to have already fallen off. We're only on lap 8 out of 26, and I'm a bit surprised at the rate of degradation on that tyre. So maybe fellow Son has made a good call here, but he's just not had the pace to make up the places either, so it's been a bit of a catch-22 here. Caution in Sector 2 for a stricken Alpine. It's Ryan Brooks facing the wrong way. Well, initially facing the wrong way, but might have just had a moment. I've seen that all too often, and he's got no front wing for good measure, so no downforce on that Alpine. And I don't know if Ryan Brooks has realised it yet. He should have had the hood to indicate damage is on there, and he should have really let the Red Bull and the Haas through, considering his aerodynamic difficulties. Finds a way to get out of the way through the unlikeliest of places. But there we go, his fellow Son now up to 14th on his teammate. And he can start looking at the back of Flip, as I think Herman has come into the pit lane. He indeed has, from 9th position. It was 9th position, I promise you that. He now comes in off those 9 laps old medium tyres. Of course, everyone, that's what everyone else started on, bar Guy and fellow Son. And now Herman will be relegated to the back, well, near to the back of the field, as Ryan Brooks does the same due to his front wing damage. And actually, Ryan Brooks is going to continue on. Brave lad, considering how the race has gone for him thus far. And while that's been going on, we haven't really had a chance to look at this battle here, because really there's been no movement at all. Nobody's got into the pits just yet, and we could be looking at a 7-car battle. Babish is only a couple of tenths off, but he's been bubbling in that gap for the past few laps now. Not really been making any real inroads, and I just wonder if that's on purpose. I wonder if he's just trying to keep at arm's length, because as I've said earlier on in the broadcast, you know, he's got to think about that dirty air and how much he'll use his tyres. And of course, he's got to think about track limits there. You saw him cutting it through that section on the right-hander before that left-hander, where Herman lost it, got his 3 seconds. Herman rejoining the track down in 17th. And of course, Russ Desiri, thanks to Ryan Brooks losing all that time with no front wing, is now up to 19th. As now Energetic and Control goes side by side through Stowe. Does Energetic get the move done? He does, but that's only because Control decides to go into the pit lane. He's on 8-lap-old medium tyres, so he will come in for his stop. I imagine it will be hard tyres for the Alpine there. And now, well, looking to try and get the undercut, but one to keep an eye on will be Herman the German. I think he'll have a couple of tricks up his sleeve as well, considering he'll have the undercut on everybody else. So remember, got that 3 seconds to serve post-race, and will be one to look out for when we do the next round of pit stops. Still no real change here, but an update to the battle. Babish is now floating within a 10th of that DRS. He is getting closer and closer. Of course, remember, he had 3rd place last time out, and he qualified 6th, and he is currently up a position as of right now, so qualifying 8th, and is now starting to look at this battle for the lead, and it is just becoming entertaining. And look at that understeer. That'll be partly due to the tyre life on the mediums there, so unfortunately for him, we'll probably have to pit very soon. But then again, he is within that 1 second window to Quincy in the Red Bull. There you go, the rear wing opens for the McLaren for what feels like the first time in a long time. And now this lead battle becomes a 7-car race. So who is going to fold first? It's Danger David with Quincy. Into the pits comes last week's race winner in Austria. He will jump in from 4th position and will be looking to undercut the Williams and the Kick-Sauber and the McLaren in front. And now, of course, with those 2 pit stops, Babish will now assume 5th position, but of course this is very temporary indeed. We're on lap 11, and we do expect another pit stop to come this way for the drivers. And now look at this, the Williams in their own battle, but of course Andy Andre, the 4-time world champion, and 4 times in a row, looking to make it 5 in a row this season. Didn't get off to the best start, 5th place last week, and currently looking to try and make amends for the lack of podium. Having a bit of understeer there through Brooklands, of course, more pit lane activity for Flip, Namzam and Tark and Gino, who, of course, we were observing earlier, losing time to his teammate. Fellow Son with all the pit stops, now up to 9th position, with the Hasses up to 10th and 12th, respectively. But, of course, that battle will resume once the pit stops have been concluded. Danger David out in 11th place. Let's have a look at the gap to the leader. Currently 26 seconds, so they will have to respond or else Danger David will put them under pressure. Mr. Wouter in 8th place in the Ferrari with a 3-second time penalty. Of course, currently just a bit out of position as he hasn't made his pit stop. So we'll see where he comes out once these phase of pit stops are completed. And there's Robastian into the pit lane from the lead of the race. Everybody looks out for Danger David and SSRL Quincy. Quincy came out in 13th, but has got Quan for company, so Quincy in a bit of trouble. The Haas goes wide into Chapel Curve there. Don't know what happened. I don't know if Quan was caught out by the dirty air of the Racing Bulls in front. But that doesn't matter for Quincy because he's now got free air at last. Robastian into his pit box, as is Andy Andre, who's quickest in the pits. It is obviously the Williams, but now where is Danger David in the Racing Bulls? Through Club Corner he comes onto the start finish straight. Is this a change for the lead? It will be. Oh, so close. Second and first are out of the pits, but now it's back to Andy Andre. He couldn't quite get in front, but of course those tyres for the Kick Sauber need to come up to temperature, and the DRS is right there. These are crucial laps for Danger David now, and for everybody in front. There we go, Danger David with DRS down the Wellington straight, but he's not close enough. And Andy Andre will hold on, but now we need to keep an eye on Andrew, because surely Andrew is losing time to all of this, as is Babish. So don't forget, those two in front need to make a stop as well. In fact, everybody in front of this little group, from Robastian to the lead, need to stop for their first tyre stops. And Danger David unable to take advantage of those cold tyres on the Kick Sauber. He will remain. As of right now, we need to wait for Andrew. Oh, 10-second penalty for Andrew for speeding in the pit lane. Babish comes in as well, and without a penalty, what about Energetic and Mr. Alta? They all come in as well, and I imagine Fellow Son will as well, but no, he's actually fighting with Guy still, so he hasn't cared about what everyone else has done, as we see Tark and Gino get a 3-second penalty. He is the 5th driver to do so. And now Fellow Son up to 2nd place. In fact, make that the lead of the race. So Will, if it can complete this, if he doesn't go for a stop, will lead a lap of the Grand Prix. But now we need to look, because Andrew loses the lead of the race to his teammate. But of course, remember, a 10-second penalty to come his way into the next pit stop. And look at this. We have a 4-car battle for the lead yet again. And Quincy, 2.3 seconds behind. It's not over just yet. But for Andrew, he needs something from the racing gods to come his way, or else it's going to be trouble in the Williams paradise. Remember, Williams locked out 1st and 2nd in qualifying. They are fighting with the Racing Bulls for the constructors, and it looks like the Racing Bulls are going well, but Energetic down in 13th, so scoring very few points there. Only 3 to come his way, and he's in a battle with Verstappen as well. And just cutting away from that battle very briefly, this is one of the closer on track. Of course, the battle for what is, well, the temporary lead of the race. Of course, Fellow Son and Guy do have to make their pit stops, but let's see how entertaining they make it. The Haas now with DRS on the Aston Martin down the inside, down the hanger straight, and I think Fellow Son isn't going to fight that too hard, but then I'm wrong. He fights around the outside of Stowe. Does he come into the pit lane? No, these two do not come into the pit lane. They are going to remain line astern as they come through Club. Fellow Son trying to get the overtake done to get back the lead of the race, but Guy holds firm for now. And now we start lap 14 out of 26. The halfway point has been surpassed. And now these two are fighting for what's only for a lap for the lead. And here's Fellow Son into Village, down the inside of the Haas. The Haas fights right back, coming into loop, and he's still there. They are still side by side. This is not going to mean very much when they've made their pit stop, but they're going to be getting everything now. Fellow Son goes back through an entry. What a move by the Aston Martin. What commitment and what respect shown by those two drivers. That was some amazing battling. And then in the background, we see the McLaren of Bavish get past his teammate for 8th position. And now he will start charging towards Quincy. 1.3 seconds to the Red Bull in front. And the McLaren on an absolute roll, trying to get back into the podium position after what was, once I have the notes in front of me, what was a second place last week. I think I might have been misquoted because Robastian finished 3rd last week, and he's certainly in a good position today. But then Andy Andre as well. Remember, he's always quick when the cards are against him. As now Guy and Fellow Son do battle again at this very corner. Fellow Son doesn't have enough to go around the outside, but he's going to stay out as Guy into the pit lane. And so Fellow Son will remain out for the time being. Now on, well, what will be 14-lap-old hard tyres. Guy comes in on 13-lap-old hard tyres. And now Guy will drop down the order. But where is he going to come out? That will be one to look out for as well. And, well, the battle for the lead resumes. But, of course, remember, Andrew is the odd one out. He's got a 10-second penalty in his next pit stop. And we'll just have to be very wary of where he comes out. He's going to try and hold on for as long as he can. Of course, I do expect to see pit stops at around, I would say, depending on where the tyres are, lap 20. But then again, everybody on fresh sets of tyres now. I mean, the oldest there is Veraduka on 5-lap mediums. It won't be comfortable, but it will be doable as, there we go, Energetic also getting past the Ferrari for 11th place there. That's Energetic on flip. And now 4 seconds to Control in front. And Control is also battling with the Mercedes even of Herman the German. Of course, Herman with a 3-second penalty to serve post-race for track limit violations through the section of corners that we are coming through now. Maggots and Beckett's. And Herman actually taking a wider line this time around. But Fellow Son losing the lead of the race to the Williams of Robastian. No penalty to serve. And then Andrew says, thank you very much. I'll go right back through. And Andy Andre does the same to his competitor from last season. Very different fortunes there for the Kick Sauber and the Aston Martin. And now with all the pit stops sorted out, Robastian takes fastest lap of the race. But his teammate is still 0.8 of a second. So not a full escape there from the Aston Martin. From the Williams there of Robastian. And then we look at the battle for 5th here as Bavish has caught up right to the back of the Red Bull. Currently here and qualifying 8th position. But now with Fellow Son and Guy making their pit stops. Fellow Son is just on the pit exit now. He is going to be back behind the Haas of Guy. Then, in fact, he's actually right on the exit there. And there's Guy looking up through Village and now into the loop. Fellow Son and Guy are going to do battle once again. Flip and Energetic do fighting again for 10th place. But now, Fellow Son and Guy again. And there we go. Just like 2 laps ago, Fellow Son finding the outside. Has DRS on the Haas. He gets the move done. 2 seconds to his teammate Tarkangino in front. And Tarkangino with a penalty for post-race. Due to track limit violations there. Quincy has dropped away from this battle. 3.8 seconds as now. We were talking about Bavish earlier on. He's on an absolute charge. And it's now got DRS on the Red Bull. Does he try it coming into Stowe? He's not going to be close enough. But does he get a good exit for Club section coming up now? No, the dirty air there kind of ruined that. So once you get to the high downforce stuff, as we've been seeing with several drivers throughout the evening, it's just simply not possible. And now he's just going to have to slot him behind for now. We'll need to try and gauge a few moves coming down into Abbey. Turn 1, flat right-hander through here. Now the left-hander coming into Village, which is going to be a medium to slow speed right-hander. And onto the back of the Red Bull he goes. Once you get into the slow speed stuff, Quincy looks to be suffering from understeer there. The McLaren looks down the inside. He'll have a great exit coming out of Aintree. Won't be suffering from dirt yet that much. Quincy goes to the left-hand side of the track to try and stop the McLaren from making a move, and it works successfully for now, but a bit of contact at the back there of the Red Bull, but looks like both are unharmed, and Babish will continue racing for the time being. As at the moment, these two now going to be losing time once they start battling. But yet again, Danger David and DeAndre and Sebastian right in there for the podium places. And I think we might be pulling off a one-stop considering how the tyres are aging. I think Vero Ducco is the only one in trouble here on, let's see, 7-lap-old medium tyres, and maybe Tarcangino as well, 6-lap-old hards. I think we have a one-stop race for once, although last week in Austria, it was a two-stop, despite wet weather coming in the final, first 7 laps. But at the moment, we are now seeing Babish round the outside of Stowe. Quincy has a moment mid-corner, and that allows Babish to comfortably get through the Red Bull. And now he has got that move done and will sail into the distance to try and chase down the top 4, who are currently in a battle for the lead. Of course, Andrew, remember, with a 10-second penalty, I think if the one-stop is doable, he'll serve that post-race. And Babish, well, he could be on for 4th place, but of course he could be on for more if he gets a hurry up on, but he won't have DRS now that he's overtaken Quincy. As Fellow Sun there with the fastest lap down in 15th, so he will get the additional, 14th even, and he will get the additional point. For that, we still do additional points here for fastest lap here in SSRL, although Real Life F1 have moved on from that rule. And as of right now, well, things are finally starting to look like they're calming down, but of course, gaps are very close still up and down the field. We've got Guy here looking to make an overtake on the Aston Martin of Gino. Of course, remember, this Aston Martin with a 3-second post-race penalty to serve. The Haas down the inside of the Aston Martin, but that's Tarcangino starting to fight back there through Luffield. They go side by side with one another. Lots of room being afforded as they go through Woodcote. It looks like the Aston Martin has better straight line speed there, but the Haas finds something and gets the move done before going into Cop. So nice stuff there from Guy, and he's going to look at the back of Fellow Sun yet again. Can he make that 3-second gap to give us yet another fight between those two? We'll wait and see, as now we see Energetic get past Flip again. Those two fighting for what feels like a few laps now, and they've allowed Verstappen to get caught up in all of this as well. So, bit of stress here for the Racing Bulls, but that team having a much better job. At least Energetic is actually within is within the points this time around. Of course, last time out in Austria, he finished 2 laps down in 17th position. So not a very good start to the season, but more than making up for it here in Silverstone. And of course, if drivers in front start getting more penalties, well, then he could start looking at making up a couple of more positions and making points, more importantly. And he's already looking at to be around 3 seconds to the cars in front, as Rush the Siri, the next car to make yet another stop. Not have been a very good performance from him. Down in what will be now 20th. Not close to being lapped anytime soon, but we are in the latter half of the Grand Prix with 8 laps to go. So I'm a bit surprised he's gone and made a stop. Hang on a minute. No, I'm actually not, because he was actually the first to make a stop due to front wing damage, and that was all the way on lap 1. So I'm actually surprised he's actually left it that long. Now, you might want to remember the gap was at 30 seconds or way back when, and it's down to 8 seconds. So going long and having the pain on those tires has benefited him massively, and he can now start trying to make positions. He could try and get to the gap back of Guy, but he's not got a lot of time to do it. He's got 8 laps, but the leaders now have 7 laps to do something, and it has been a rather entertaining Grand Prix. Just a little update on Babish for you. He's not been able to make up any ground at all. He's been losing ground ever since overtaking Quincy, and the Red Bull has not let him go at all. He has remained rather firm in sticking to the back of the McLaren, and at the moment he is currently looking like he could be on for a good set of points yet again. Of course, Quincy last week finishing 4th, so down 2 positions, but considering his qualifying performance was 9th place, he's up 3 positions. That's pretty impressive if you ask me. Caution in Sector 1 for a Ferrari who is pointing towards the barrier through Aintree. He reverses back onto the track. Little Little bit uncertain, but he's ghosted, so it doesn't matter about the rejoin. But that could have been a safety car, and that could have flipped things upside down. He allows the Aston Martin of Tarkin through, so that brings Tarkin into the points now. And in fact, now, looking at the gaps for Rush the Series to catch, it could be on, but he's got to be within the penalty windows. Ryan Brooks there, 10 seconds from flip. And of course, you might want to remember, Ryan Brooks, who has been a championship contender in the Friday Night League PFRL, as we see Flip there go very wide out of cops due to the dirty air of the Aston Martin in front. Looking like he's getting back into a rhythm. But what I was saying about Ryan Brooks, I commentate over his Friday League PFRL, and he's more of a contender there. But just here, considering his performance last week, which I am trying to find on my notes here, don't know if he even attended, to be honest with you, but I'll get back to you on that in a couple of moments' time. But considering I expected him to be a bit higher up today, he's not quite making it work. So we'll see how that all goes. I think he actually might be a reserve. I think he's more or less in Division 2, which of course will be here at 7:30 p.m. tomorrow. And I won't have any trouble with National Rail because I don't actually need to travel home for that one. So of course that one will come to you live and on time. And I will also have the Mercedes, who's sitting in 8th place, Herman the German, in the commentary box. He'll be giving his expertise from tonight's race, and I'm sure we'll hear all about it. I can't wait for him to be back in here tomorrow. But in terms of right now, 6 laps to go for the lead as well. Make that 5 laps to go at the line. Move still not being done. Everybody holding back. Sebastian holding the lead for the time being. And of course, to remember, it was Sebastian on pole position, so I think Andrew, his teammate, has realised, well, that 10-second penalty has rather screwed up any chance of a top 5 result, maybe even a top 6 result, because, of course, Race Chase with a 3-second penalty, so I don't think he's going to catch, although it will be close. Race Chase just really needs to stay with Bavish and hope Bavish has some good pace towards the end of the race. Of Quincy using the McLaren's DRS still, so Quincy just not letting him go, just keeping him on a very tight leash as of right now, and just benefiting from his slipstream, and of course him opening the rear wing. Bit of a mistake from Quincy there, coming through loop. That might give Race Chase a bit of a look, but he's not close enough, and of course Quincy will have DRS for defense. Things starting to calm down here. I'm a bit surprised, considering usually it's the final few laps where we start seeing moves, but everybody playing a game of chess here, and I think Dage David is actually focusing on Andy Andre in front. I don't think he's actually trying to battle for the lead. And of course, the Williams of Andrew helping with that. Despite the 10-second penalty, he's clearly trying to help his teammate out here. And Sebastian is giving him the DRS as well. So I think the Williams playing a very good game here, and I think Dage David would just want to try and find a way past the Kicksauber if he could. Andy Andre very close that time around. Looked like he got a good run out of Chapel, but just can't do anything with it. Look at that. They are just stuck in a DRS train coming into Stowe, and nobody's able to really make a move. So Williams playing this one like an absolute beauty. Just to update you on Rush the Siri in the back there, 18th place for the Mercedes driver. Not been, I say it's not been the best 2 races. Qualified 5th last week, finished down in 9th. Now today, he's qualified 7th place and now finds himself outside of the points altogether. So, really been a slow start, and you might want to think back all the way to Season 3. He actually had a championship contention, but sadly, once it got to Monaco, despite taking 2nd place, found himself outside of the points that he needed to keep with Herman the German. So that went down to the final race, which was in Jeddah, and then Rush the Siri with 2 laps to go on a safety car restart, but locks up into turn 1, hits Herman the German, which then brings Herman out of the championship contention points. Andy Andre wins that race, does everything right. Herman the German, I think, came home 7th or 6th, and, well, lost the championship thanks to that. And, of course, well, it's been a few seasons since then. Rush the Siri and Herman are very good friends, I think, last time I checked. But, of course, I remember Herman, yeah, he was very sad about that. And Yeah, no, that I would imagine that took a couple of days. Probably took about a month of therapy to get over, but Herman now with a new lease of life on this game, but just not quite finding his mojo right now, but he seems to be enjoying the racing, in which, speaking of, Control goes right past him into Stowe. And Herman looking to try and come back at the Alpine, but slots him behind. I don't think Herman wants to fight this too hard. He knows he's just losing time if he fights with him, and he's not in the same race, so if he's passed, may as well try and use DRS. 3 laps to go, and we still haven't really seen any movement from the leaders, and that's due to the fact there's been there's a top 2 Williams, despite Andrew having a 10-second penalty as fellow Sun retires from the session. That'll be a rage quit. No yellow flag required, but there is also a Mercedes facing the wrong way, going through Chapel there. Rush the Siri facing the wrong way. And luckily, nobody really saw that, thanks to the yellow flag for fellow Sun's retirement. And, well, Rush the Siri, well, I was lucky enough to catch that, so Rush the Siri just couldn't quite hide his mistake there, but I think he'll also be into the pits for a retirement. Yeah, 10-second penalty. I think his race is all but done. Or is it? I know, he's decided to continue on, so he will try and hang on for something. Veriduco 51 seconds behind. I think he's also been lapped for good measure as Quan and Flip do battle in the background as well. But now with 2 laps to go, Andrew still holding David and Andy back from having a go at Road Bastion, and surely now something has to give. Will the Williams hold on to first and second? Of course, Andrew, we know, will not. He has a 10-second penalty to serve post-race thanks to speeding in the pit lane. And now Andy has to make a move if he wants to try and take the win and bring the championship back into his claws. Although this is a very good result still, he will want more. He knows he wants more, but as does Danger David. He wants to be another Scott. He wants to have the 2nd win in a row. Took the win last week in Austria. Bit of a lock-up from Andrew through Brooklands, but through Luffield, looks like he's got it all back together. Here we go. It is now down the old start-finish straight. Which one of the 3 drivers, apart from Andrew, is going to take the win? You would argue that the ball is in Road Bastion's court. There is no way. As long as Andrew stays in second with no mistakes, no way these 2 are catching up. And I think David is starting to lose that time due to the tyre life of the hards. They're all, well, between them, they are about 12 to 14 laps old. The oldest belonging to Danger David there, 14 laps for him, and the youngest belonging to Andrew, but that's just a bit unfortunate. He cannot use that advantage. And now Control with a 3-second penalty, so now Herman has a position to fight for in the last lap. Verstappen overtakes Guy there. Yellow flag down the hanger straight. That will be short-lived. No safety car required. Final lap for these drivers. It is a 3.6-mile race. Danger David out of DRS range for Andy Andre, and he gets desperate for a village, and he loses control of the car. Danger David has lost the grip on the win, so it is now down to Andy to try and make a move, but he's not close enough. It's not going to be quite there for Andy just yet. He has a couple of more opportunities, needs a good exit out of Luffield to try and get some sort of momentum on the Williams in front, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Remember, Andrew has that slipstream from his teammate. It has been all hold stations from the Williams crew, and Andrew has benefited his teammate massively here. Despite the 10-second penalty, Andrew and Robastion working together. A very solid team indeed. They will, of course, lead the constructors coming out of this evening, but it's looking like it will be a podium for Danger David at the very least. But Robastion, who has done nothing wrong all race, one stop was the solution, and now it is not going to be a Romanian 1-2-3. It will be a Romanian 1-2, and Robastion from 3rd last week takes the win here this week. He goes through Club Corner and wins in Silverstone. Andy will take 2nd. Danger David 3rd place. He makes 2 podiums in a row. But what about Bavish? Can he get 4th? Yes, he can. He's done very well there. Quincy not enough to get 5th. Race Chase will get 7th, with Quincy, of course, taking 6th. Energetic, though, will be in 8th place. A delight for the Racing Bulls team, at the very least, nearly losing it through the final corner. And that is 8th for the Racing Bulls team. Herman will finish in 10th. Verstappen, with no penalty, finishes in front of Mr. Walter. Of course, that's 11th and 12th, respectively. Guy in 13th after battling Fellow Son for so long. Fellow Son, of course, DNFing due to rage quit. Then it's Ryan Brooks next across the line, I believe in 14th, but let's see how the penalties work out. Tarkangino takes 14th eventually. Then what about Flip here? What's he? I don't think he's close enough. He's not going to get any points at all. So Flip will come home 16th place, then 17th for the Haas of Kwan here. And then 18th for Ducko. And of course, due to that lap 1 misery for Ruster Siri, losing his front right end plate there on his front wing, has sadly finished a lap down. As Veriduka now comes across the line, he'll be the final driver, 18th for the Red Bull, with his reserve teammate Quincy all the way up in 16th. Veriduka comes across the line to complete what was an entertaining race in Division 1, and we will have podium interviews in a few moments' time. But we will now go through podium celebrations with the guys, and there we go. Robastian on top, and it is a Romanian 1-2 for the British Grand Prix there. And now the Williams there celebrating, of course. Will be very sad for his teammate Andrew, but Robastian probably not thinking about that right now. He sprays the champagne, as does David, as does Andy, and Andy having a very good recovery indeed. Of course, the current champion here in SSRL gets 2nd place. I think he'll be very happy with that, but we'll thank the luck of the 10-second penalty that came Andrew's way. Driver of the day goes to Guy Rapka on the game, but cleanest driver goes to Quincy, so I think officially SSRL recognize driver of the day for the cleanest driver. But your top 5 are as follows. It's Robastian, Andy Andre, Danger David, Bavish, and Andrew. Thanks to that 10-second penalty relegating him from 2nd to 5th. Then from 6th to 10th is Quincy, Race Chase, Energetic, Control, and Herman. Then from 11th to 15th, it's Verstappen, Walter, Rapka, Gino, and Ryan. And then from 16th to 20th, it's Flip, Quan, Veriduko, Ruster Siri, and then your only non-finisher, Fellow Son. And that concludes the British Grand Prix. What an entertaining race that was. Incredible stuff from the Division 1 of SSRL. But now I do believe we're going to start having people come in their droves. We'll try and wait for our winner, Robastian, to make his way into the commentary box. But I think a lot to think about there. Well, of one stop finally paying off for most of the drivers. And now, with that in mind, are we going to start seeing one-stops a lot more often? Of course, I will save those kind of questions for the drivers, because only they will know. But maybe they will find out when the weeks to come. But, of course, lots of entertaining races up and down the field, particularly Guy and Fellow Son. Big shout-outs to those two, right at the back of the field, but giving us a lot of entertaining action, despite them, well, not really fighting at the top of the field, but at least fighting for the lower end of the points. And Guy getting a points result for the Haas team. Still no news. We don't have our top 2 here in the box, unfortunately. So I'm going to give them another minute, and then we will get started. We do have one of the top 3 in here. But yeah, no, I think one of the headlines to think about today is that, you know, Andy back in 2nd there, of course, finishing 5th last week, and then the Williams could have rounded out a top 2 finish, but Andrew, with a 10-second post-race penalty, unfortunately means that he lost out on a podium position, had to settle for 5th. And then, of course, a one-stop strategy that pulled off for the top 3. But now, we do have our winner here in the commentary box, and we will start off our post-race interviews. Robastian, congratulations. That was quite a win. Pole position in qualifying, and then 1st place in the race. What a round that was for you. Please describe how you're feeling.
Oh, mate. I did an incredible 25.9. I matched my personal best. This weekend and also last weekend, I tried to put as much practice I could do, also with Andrew, and it paid off today. And also race-wise, it was a well-managed race for both me and Andrew, and it's a shame that he had the 10-second penalty because we could have been a full Romanian podium, but Andrew was a little bit naughty of that. Yeah, I am very proud of me and also Andrew. We both executed a well race today, so very happy.
And as you should be as well. Like, that was quite the show there. Now, of course, kind of speaking of, like, one of the headlines that I'm really taking away from this evening is that the one stop finally worked out despite the whole, the degradation that we saw in Austria last week, even though we had the wet weather for about 11 laps, when then we had dries, still had to make another stop. But this time we didn't see that. Can you perhaps just give us a bit more insight on that?
Yeah, the one-stop strategy was the quickest, so we managed. I think most of us did, even I think all of us did the one-stop race. For the last 1 or 2 laps before I pit, my tires were at 60-65% because I don't know how to manage them. But otherwise, yeah, it was a good race for both of us. I have to mention that, and like I said before, it's a shame that Andrew did the 10-second penalty in the pit lane.
And of course, speaking of Andrew, of course, as you just said, got that penalty. Was there any kind of team orders going into the race at all, or were you just going to play it by ear before that 10-second penalty came around?
Not even one team orders.
Mhm.
If he didn't had this 10-second penalty and we were in the last lap fighting for the win, it didn't matter whoever won. So either it was me or Andrew. It didn't matter so much for me.
Mhm. And I guess just one last thing. Of course, third place last week, a win this week. What are your future prospects going forward?
To be as consistent as possible. I'm not fighting for the wins. I'm fighting to be as consistent as I could be.
Oh, that's a very good start indeed. Sebastian, again, congratulations on a win. Enjoy that, and we will see you next week.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you also, Andy and David. David, you are on P3.
Yes, he was P3.
Congratulations.
All
Good
right.
night.
Good night. And now moving on to second place. Well, Andy, it was a bit out of character to see you off the podium last week, but you've made amends this week. Congratulations on second place. Do you think there was just more on the table, or was just Andrew too big of a stumbling block for you to get past even?
Thank you. Yes, as opposed to last week, I paid a bit more. I gave a bit more time to practice. For this one, I did a full race simulation, so I knew the one stop would be a better strategy. I pretty much knew what the tire wear was going to be like, as opposed to last week. So yeah, that showed in the final result. But still, congratulations to Sebastian, and especially to Andrew. He showed such a unexpected pace improvement today. It was really great seeing him there.
And of course, I remember one of the things you said last season in your absolute steamrolling of a championship there in season 5. I remember you were just saying, I'm just here to have fun, I'm just here to take it easy. But now you've got Sebastian, you've got the other one, Andrew, and now you've got David right there on your tail. And of course, Bavish not too far behind either. He wasn't able to quite make it onto the podium. But has that changed your mindset from last season going into this season?
Uh, Probably yes. Think neither championship is within reach this season, nor the drivers, nor the neither the constructors. But still hoping I can get one or two wins in there somehow, and for the rest, just hoping for a good pace. It was a really next level racing what we saw today. I don't remember ever seeing so many fast drivers within the DRS range, not making mistakes lap after lap, just putting out the super fast laps. It was really, really nice to see.
It gave us a lot to talk about, and not just at the front, but up and down the field as well. But of course, you will watch that back in the stream. And of course, like, one of the things that we talked about, like, as I've asked Robastian as well, is that we saw a one-stop strategy finally pay off. Can you give a little bit more about that?
Yes, as I said, I did the race simulation. I pretty much knew what the tire wear was gonna be like, and the one stop was definitely faster on this track, even without safety car considerations or uh, traffic with going with the two stop. So it was pretty much a straightforward strategy for today.
All right, and now just going forward, obviously, as you said, the championship is a little out of your. You say it's a little out of your reach, but are you going to take that race by race eventually, or are you just thinking, no, not quite this time. Maybe this season I have to relinquish.
That's my that's what I'm thinking about right now. I don't really have high hopes at this point, but still, I'll try to enjoy each race and be there for as many as I can. And who knows what happens down the road? If there will be any opportunities coming up, I'm hoping to be there to take advantage.
All right. Thank you very much, Andy. Nice to see you back on the podium. Oh, good to see old habits coming back again. And, well, we'll see you next week.
Yep, thank you. Congratulations to the guys, and see you next week. Thanks.
Just to let you know, we do have one extra interview to come up, but first we'll knock out Danger David. Congratulations on what was eventually a hard-fought third place. It looked like it was a bit trickier for you once you made your way up to fourth and then you started fighting with the guys in front. Can you just kind of explain how that race folded out for you?
Yeah, I put quite a bit of time into putting together a setup, and I just think the setup didn't work out quite how I wanted it to be. It definitely had the pace to be up there and stay within the DRS, but there was no chance of pushing for any overtakes as soon as I got up to the kind of top 4 and 5. Um, so yeah, it was quite a long race, just sitting there for 26 laps, stuck in the DRS, knowing that I couldn't go anywhere. But P3 is a good result.
Mm. And of course, part of that was thanks to Andrew speeding in the pit lane. And can you just kind of give detail? Like, you were so rapid through that first few laps, and then top four just stopped. What kind of was the big contributing factor to all of that?
I think it was just kind of managing the pace. I think with my setup, I just went a little bit too high on the wings, so I was losing quite a lot of pace, having to use more ERS. So there wasn't for me personally, there wasn't a lot of opportunities to get overtakes. It was literally just as soon as I got up to P4, I was just sitting stuck in the DRS train. I could not get an overtake done. So touching on Andrew's penalty of 10 seconds, that was a blessing because without that, I would have been P4, definitely.
And I guess, obviously, just kind of looking into things for next week, just bringing up the calendar on broadcast very quickly, we are off to Lusail for the next round. And of course, that's not the easiest track to overtake round either. And it's also one which will test the track limits discipline for all drivers up and down the field. What's kind of your hopes going into that?
I think it's kind of good qualifying and making sure I build up the right setup for the race. It's quite a high downforce track. There's not really much playing about with that, so that makes that quite easy. It's just finding the right balance on the actual car because there's so many fast, high speed corners. Um, as long as I qualify, I think it will be a matter of just being consistent in the race, and I think I do have a little bit better consistency this season. That may be a two-stop race. I think tonight there was no chance of a two-stop race. It was that pit, the pit stop time is so large that doing a two-stop race is just not feasible. You lose so much time. I think the delta loss between the two strategies was about 10 seconds. So yeah, it just wasn't worth it. Maybe next week, two stops feasible.
All right. Well, look, we'll look forward to whatever happens in next week in Lusail. But thank you very much, and again, congratulations on what was a P3 in the end.
Cheers, guys.
And while we have been granted one extra interview, it was the guy who got a 10-second pit lane speeding penalty. Andrew, you've got to be feeling very sore after that. 10 seconds and relegated to 5th. What are your feelings coming out of this round?
First of all, can you hear me? All okay?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. Yeah, what can I say? Got it for the penalty. I didn't feel I speeded, but the game is very inconsistent in this part. If it says I got a 10-second penalty, then I got a 10-second penalty. Got it because I think the pace was there. I think if I didn't have that penalty, I would have had the chance to fight Robastian for the win. Knowing that I had this penalty, I didn't want to push anything, and I tried to come home second on track.
And of course, it looked like you were kind of playing like the block between Andy, Andre, and David to your teammates. And of course, the 10-second penalty would have had a big influence on that. So, in my question to you, what if Andy or David was able to get alongside? Were you going to fight them too? How hard were you planning to fight them, considering your penalty and your race?
To be honest, yeah, I kind of played the team game after getting the penalty because I knew I had to stick with P2, and I prayed that the gap would be enough to finish in top 5. Finally, it was. Unfortunately, for 1.5 seconds, I couldn't finish P4, which would have been better, but it's okay like that. But if one of the guys would be next to me, probably I would have fought for the position in order to create a gap for Robastian. Of course, playing the team game, for me, it's important that we both score high points every race and get in the mix for the championship, yeah.
And actually, kind of just talking about that, as far as I know, with, of course, Robastian taking the win and you taking 5th, Williams, of course, we're on even points with Racing Bulls going into the evening. But now, with the points as they've worked out from this evening, of course, before penalties applied, if any are to be, Williams lead the championship. So are you at least happy with that?
Yes, of course. Of course, this is why we race every week. We want to be the best, and we want to beat the best. Considering that, I want to say congratulations to the guys who finished on the podium. Of course, also Danger David, who was 4th, very close to us. He capitulated on my penalty, but nevertheless, it's his merit to have been in that DRS train. And what can I say? We'll come back stronger in Qatar. We'll try to respect the track limits and pit limit this time. And why not extend? We want to extend, of course, this championship lead.
All right. Andrew, thank you so much. I'm sorry you couldn't quite finish on the podium, but we'll look forward to some fights going into next week. Thank you so much for taking extra time out of your evening today.
Thank you for having me. Again, congratulations to the guys, and I promise that we will have. For me, I'm gutted because if I would have finished P2, there would have been a Romanian podium. This is what I want: at least one Romanian podium, no matter the order, for this season.
All right. We'll look forward to a Romanian podium at some point, and we've got more than ample time for that. Thank you again, and bye-bye to everybody.
Cheers. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Dave. GG, everybody. Bye.
and that was just Quincy coming in. Of course, he finished 6th place this week, but of course, he allowed us to interview Andrew after that 10-second penalty for pit lane speeding, and of course, playing the team game, keeping Andy and David behind so that Robastian could get that win. It wasn't by any means comfortable, but they got the job done. So Robastian taking the win. Andrew needs to work on his pit speeding discipline. And of course, in case you didn't see the calendar early on, well, we'll be back same time as always next week in Lusail. But there's one last thing we need to knock out, and that is, of course, Division 2. And of course, we will be having the return of the German tomorrow. It's Herman the German who is going to be with us for Division 2. About 7:30 start time for that one. But of course, for tonight, it has been an absolute pleasure to be the broadcaster and the commentator for Division 1 in SSRL. Don't forget, tomorrow will be Division 2 with Herman. And, of course, we'll be back same time tomorrow. Well, same time next week on Monday for Division 1 Round 3 in Lusail. Can the Williams finally take a 1-2? Can we finally see a Romanian podium? You'll just have to find out. But until then, have a very good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. Stay safe, stay alive, and we will see you next week about 7:30 p.m. GM BST. Bye for now.